Before we get into today's episode, let me ask you this question. How is your team really coping with shift work? Here's the truth. Management can't support you if they don't know what's missing or what to do. And that's where I come in. Now, most workplaces do have budgets set aside for your health and well-being. But they need to know that there's a better way to support their shift workers. And that starts with you letting them know that I exist. Now, every single shift work seminar in every 24/7 workplace that I've run has happened because a shift worker, just like you, spoke up and made their management aware of my existence. Now, if you're the one who gets me into your workplace, I promise to coach you one-to-one for 8 weeks for free as a thank you for making it happen. Your team wins and you win. So head to ahealthyshift.com and up the top is a seminar tab. Go to that and you can download my free e-brochure in relation to the seminar experience, and let's change how shift work is done in your workplace.
Here we go. It's the night shift. I think many of you know and remember, we haven't seen him for a long time. Don't know where he's been. Roger Sutherland, we talk all things night shift, things that happen in the middle of the night, things that go quirky. The one and only young Ann Jackson is working the other side of the glass. Roger, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Tony. How are you?
I've been sensationally well and happy and smiling, and it's a joy to see you back in the studios here of Australia overnight. There are much we can talk about, but I want to talk to you very shortly too about this seminar experience on which you've been working.
Yep.
Which will be fascinating.
Yes.
During the news, you and I got fired up, as we tend to do.
We do,
about the state of the nation. I made the point, you can't say as much as I can, but I make the point is that we still have this situation pretty much right throughout Australia where people are certainly concerned about the lawlessness that seems to be more and more prevalent as we move through this year.
Now, I communicate with a lot of policing agencies and police members worldwide. Mm-hmm. It's not just nationwide. It's worldwide.
Global.
And the UK
what do they say is driving it?
Well, I don't know whether I'm even allowed to say what my thoughts are.
Where do you start? No, feel free to give your thoughts.
Immigration. I think the immigration's a massive problem. That's where I think it starts.
So, we've had this. Somebody talked about this earlier in the week. It might have been last week in the program.
Yep.
On the basis that if that is the case,
yes,
how do we manage that? This is because the world population presumably is growing. We've got this situation where there is conflict in other parts of the world.
Yep.
People are trying to escape it.
Yep.
They're going into other regions right throughout Europe. It's a major issue. What is the solution? Is there one?
I don't know, but I do know one thing that if people are going to come into the country and live in a country, whether it be Sweden, Denmark, whether it's Australia, whether it's the US, you've got to live and conform with their custom. And you need to adopt that, because if you want to get away from that mess that you've come from, then you need to come in and you need to live according to how do you
get people to do that? I don't want to. I'm just going to be the devil's advocate here for a moment. How do you get people to do that? So somebody arrives into this great nation, and you look them down the eye and say, "Now you've got to behave in a certain way as an Australian."
Okay, so what about if I went to the Middle East? And I was to, and we know that there's certain countries that if you are a female and you're wearing like a singlet top and shorts and you go into that country,
you're not going to survive.
How are they going to treat you? They're going to treat you very poorly. And in fact, the impact that has is massive on you, because they're going to take it as far as they can possibly take it.
Yeah, but we know Australian people do that. They go to Indonesia, they go to Bali, they go to various parts of...
taking drugs and things like that.
And take drugs and behave appallingly in bars.
Yes, and they do.
And they go, I've got this right, I can wear a T-shirt, I can wear a dumbass cap if I want to.
And they get punished, don't they, by the law of that country. But here, it doesn't happen. Now, I personally feel it sends the wrong message when we have the leader of the state that is actually out there handing the keys to an apartment to somebody who hasn't been here that long, when we are in trouble in the rest of the state. It's the leader of this state has to be putting the laws and starting to put bills of parliament through to support the police and the magistrates and the justice and sort that problem out. There has to be a law, and the law has to be enforced.
Yeah, so it's got to come from the police.
It's got to come from. It has to come. It's not the police's fault. I don't care what anyone says, and I know I've done 40 years in the cops, but it's not the police's fault because I'm talking to police all the time. It is unbelievably frustrating for them. You got to remember, they're away from their families, they're away from their loved ones all the time, working on these cases, putting these briefs of evidence together, and going to court for absolutely no result at all. And that's because of the lack of... The Justice Department don't actually have the tools to use to be able to support the police in what they're doing. In the meantime, marriages are breaking down a lot. I know it's a choice. The police are making those choices to do those things. But I can tell you now, it's getting very thin in the thin blue line because they had enough.
Very thin in the thin blue line. There's your quote of the morning. I do love that. 133693. Come and have your say. Anything you'd like to raise on the program? Roger, as you know, is a specialist working very for a long time now since retirement of the police force, so looking at the ideas around night shift and shift workers in particular. You know who you are. You might want to jump if you have a question, a thought, and an idea. Share your experience. 133693. Artie Karate. Morning.
Good morning, Tony Mack and Roger and Action Jackson. Now, Roger, the weather seems, it is cold, it is winter, affecting my sleep pattern in a way, and the vitamin D tablets are going up and down in prices between Woolies, Coles. Any suggestions where they're a reasonable price? Sometimes they're $10 and then they jump up to double the price.
Do they really? I haven't noticed that. I always get mine from Chemist Warehouse, believe it or not. I tend to find that the Swiss brand, and I'm not promoting anything, I'm certainly not sponsored by anybody at all, but I tend to find vitamin D is vitamin D, no matter where you actually get it from or what labels on it. It's all very, very similar stuff. So it's just a matter of hunting around and finding the cheapest that you can. Please make sure that you keep taking it. And I'd be taking probably 2,000 IU or two of those little pills every day at the moment because you can't get vitamin D from the sun at all at this time of the year here in Melbourne.
Yeah, it is pretty dark and shorter days and everything. But, I'll just keep hunting, I guess. They're the ones I use too, Swiss, but they're jumping around in price. One moment they'll have them for $9.95, then they're about $18.95.
Holy dooly, that's a massive difference, Arthur. Thank you for that. You say you can't get any sunshine this time of the year, surely?
No, you can get sunshine. You can't get vitamin D from the sun.
Because?
The sun's too low in the sky.
Aha.
It's got to be above 30 degrees above the horizon, and it's not at the moment. It's lower than 30 degrees. So even if you sit out in the sun at the moment, now, don't get me wrong here. I want to be clear. There's still plenty of benefit coming from sunlight because you're getting the ultraviolet, the infrared, you're getting all of the colours in that spectrum of sun hitting you. But your body can't synthesise vitamin D from the sun at this time of the year at the moment. We are in a window where you can't synthesise it. It's got to be above 30 degrees above the horizon. And that will be, I'll tell you when the next day is.
Get out the compass.
Occurs.
Get out the old compass. Is it more than 30 degrees?
No, I'll tell you. If we move on, I'll come back to you and I'll tell you.
Let's take a couple of these calls in. Werribee, Michael, come and join us. Hello. Yes, Michael, go ahead.
About what you're talking about, I know in the 80s, I remember how the New York City underground there, they did zero tolerance.
Yep.
Apparently the numbers fixed up the numbers there, of the crime a fair bit. It was really bad, like rapes and whatever, assaults and murders, and they brought it down quite a fair bit. But I think here now what we've got, what I'm watching on the news, it's a society breakdown. Even like in Northern Territory, Alice Springs there, it seems to be getting worse. And I just looked up Native American Indians there. They've got double the crime rate there too.
Yeah.
So it's a culture thing, and now it's coming to the cities. I don't know what's going on.
It's an interesting dilemma, really, about, Michael, thank you very much for that call, when you talk about the various regions around Australia. And what is there a heightened level of dissatisfaction with people, with particularly younger people? Are they disenfranchised to the point that they then think it's okay to get without going into too much detail, loading up a stolen car, with vodka
Weapons.
and weapons, and getting on the P155,
Yep.
creating chaos, putting their lives and other lives in danger, and that of police officers and others.
Everybody, it's a massive problem. I'm just going to come out and say it, but it's literally consequences. There is no consequence for the action. There's no consequence for doing the right thing today. There's no consequence for doing the wrong thing.
The laws say you can't do those things, so surely
They do. So now, I saw a comment today on one of the social media posts, and I thought it was interesting. Like, is the Premier now going to come out on the back of everything that happened in IGA yesterday?
Yep.
Is the Premier now going to come out and ban armed robberies or shops from armed robberies? I mean, she's banned samurai swords, but they're still carrying them, or machetes.
Yeah.
They're still carrying them. So what are we going to do? Ban armed robberies? Oh, wait, hang on. The Crimes Act actually tells us that armed robberies are banned. What's the problem? How do we solve that problem? That's the issue.
133 693. We'll do this break. Come back. Those calls that are waiting, I promise you, we won't be long. 133 693. It is Australia Overnight. We'll get to these calls in just a moment during the break on Australia Overnight. Roger Sutherland and I, from A Healthy Shift, were making the point that the level of disengagement or frustration, I think, is ingrained in, certainly you would imagine, in proceedings in various courts right around Australia. You would imagine there would be officers, young, senior, that are also feeling the angst and pain of dissatisfaction with what they do every day.
Every day.
Every
and
day.
They're having massive problems with it. There's text here, and I just want to broadly cover it. People are blaming the judges for releasing it. You're wrong. It's not the judges or magistrates that are releasing them on bail. It's the law that's releasing them on bail. The law is written by parliamentarians. By politicians. They're the ones that have got to sit there, make decisions. They vote the bill in, the bill comes in, and then the magistrates all party because they can actually then deal with the crisis that they've got in front of them. But they can only work, and the police can only work within the law. And that's all they can do. What you think looks right and feels right doesn't mean that it is actually what is the law.
And we've said often on this program, you and I don't sit through every single trial, and we don't hear the evidence that's presented to his or her honour. Mick in South Melbourne, hello.
Yes, hello.
Morning, Mick.
Hello. Hello. Further to what you're saying, I think we have to own the problem for starters, and stop just pretending it's a certain way when it isn't, but just basically throwing people off the pier. Well, I think like groups, we've got to look after our own Melbourne, our suburbs, whether it's you and me getting together, and because our society's going down.
I don't agree with the vigilante style. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
I can understand it though, Mick. Make no bones about it. I can totally understand it. Like, people have absolutely had a gutful. They've had enough. They're watching it all the time. If you follow certain people on social media and things like that, you tend to see it all the time, and it causes massive problems. And it impacts on our mental health. There's a simple solution is to turn it off. But I was driving
Turn off the social media, you mean?
Yep.
So the mere fact that we're having a conversation about it now on air, would you go so far? We shouldn't even be talking about it.
Well, it does impact on people all the time when we do, but we do need to discuss it because it's a problem. What I want to hear one of these callers ring up and tell us how to solve the problem. Someone tell us how. If you've got the Chief Commissioner of Police and Jacinta Allen, the Premier, sitting there.
Again, we're talking about Victoria.
Well, we're talking about Victoria. But if you've got your leader of the police, let's just say we're going to have...
In each state.
No, we're going to do it national. We're going to have a national inquiry. We're going to put everybody there, and you have the floor. What's your solution to it?
But the issues are very different in Northern Territory to they are in Brunswick. Are they not? I'm just putting that out there. Are they
I don't know.
Different?
Are they? Yeah, probably.
Good on you, Mick. Thank you. In Coolaroo, Bobby, say hello to Roger.
Good morning, guys.
Morning,
Bob.
I was just listening to the start of your conversation. The whole trouble is that there are not enough reinforcement. That is to say, you can go and bash somebody, you can go and rob somebody, And the first thing you're going to hear is, oh, that poor person, he had a deprived childhood. No wonder he's doing all these sorts of things, because he hasn't been brought up with having some responsibility for the rest of society
Or
as well as
respect.
himself.
Yeah.
He goes to jail, and the jail's nice and warm and comfortable at this time of the year. He's not suffering a lot. There'll be a lot of criminals out there who'll say, I can do jail time on my ear.
Yeah, and that's so
And
true.
that's where it's wrong.
Again, no consequence. Is there?
Yeah, well, it feels like there is no consequence. The
Well, it
consequences in the
does.
courts, and the courts are not in a position to really bring the proverbial
But
hammer
unfortunately, the public see the end result in court. Because that's the end of the line, isn't it? When you think about it, like the crime is committed, there's victims. I think one of the biggest concerns that the public has today is it feels like the needs of the offender are being put before the needs of the victim.
because that's what the law dictates that.
Correct. But that's
So
how the public feel.
Well, they do, but is that because they have many have a lack of understanding of the law?
Yes.
If we don't like it, and I've been saying for a long time, we don't like it, we then need politicians elected into our parliament who are prepared to
Victim-orientated.
shift those laws forward to where it's more acceptable to people, more palatable to people. At Point Cook, hello, Neil.
G'day, Thomas. How are you?
Well, thank you. What do you want to say?
Yeah, look, I think being at the immigration and people that are coming here from overseas, I think it goes back to the culture that they're coming from. So a lot of them come from war-torn countries and all this that's going on, and they just don't have any values for discipline or anything, because they've had to fight their way all their lives, kind of thing. You know, it's
cultural in that sense. Neil, we've just got a really bad line there, so thank you for making that point. But a lot of these young people to whom I think they refer are actually born here anyway.
That's true too, and I think you've raised this point, and I think it's a valid one as well. You raised this quite some time ago. Have they got respect for themselves?
Yeah, a lack of self-respect.
Lack of self-respect. Yeah. Do they have any is there any self-respect? Like, what makes you do that?
I can't answer.
I know. What makes you do that?
Maybe other people would have a sense of that, or what was important to us as young people in Australia post-war. We knew, and we were little, obviously, but there are people who would remember post-war and those very challenging times post-war. Did that unite us in a way that makes us feel it was special at that time, was tough, it was hard, it was grindy to make it work. Now those conditions no longer really apply. Times have changed. And I just wonder whether that connection is no longer what it once was, certainly post-World War II.
Yeah, because people are not pulling together. Whereas when we have a major incident, everyone pulls together, don't they?
Where are we going? Action Jackson, we're going to Peter in Port Melbourne. Hello. Hi, Pete.
Hi, guys. Good morning. How are you?
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, can I have a quick chat about this youth crime everyone keeps on bragging about? I think it's the fact that when I was a bit younger, I never knew the most important thing was the education side for these young offenders. The fact that these guys have got no prospects of going forward, probably they're getting suppressed on what they can achieve. They're not getting any help, and they're being put down by a lot of society's problems and blaming them for everything. And the fact that when you talked about the cops, sometimes it's not their fault. That 11-year-old girl that was locked up in the Northern Territory for 2 days and one night with no supervision, that goes a long way for me to trust a copper back up in the Northern Territory for leaving an 11-year-old. That's something that
it's really
those no one's going to forget, Tony.
Those issues in the Northern Territory and far north Queensland and far north of the state of Western Australia, they are challenging, and they're different again.
Incredibly challenging.
And it's probably a little different to some of the issues that we're experiencing in Melbourne or Adelaide or Sydney. Or
it is. It's not even. I don't think you can liken it.
No,
in any way. I've coached police in remote areas. unbelievably challenging.
Chris in Broady, hi.
A quick break from the episode to tell you about something that is changing lives in 24/7 workplaces. I'm now delivering live, on-site, or, if it's appropriate, virtual seminars that teach shift workers and their managers how to work with their body clocks and not against them. We cover circadian health, fatigue, movement, female-specific concerns, and how to avoid burnout. This isn't just dry theory, it's practical, science-backed, and it is delivered by me with 40 years of lived experience on the front line in policing. Now, these seminars are helping workplaces to reduce sick leave, lower staff turnover, and it also boosts morale. So if you're a manager or part of a health and safety team, let's chat. So head to ahealthyshift.com, hit the seminar tab, or use the link in the show notes to grab the brochure and book a time with me. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Sure, and Tony Mack. I first of all think people who come from abroad don't know how to assimilate with our culture, our democracy. But I did send the Premier an email. I got the protocol through a call to State Parliament after Sunday night's episode, which coincidentally I was at the shop, but I didn't actually know anything untoward was going down. But I said maybe with the lack of numbers here in the State District of Broadmeadows, the police probably need some help as a one-off under a state of emergency with the Reserve Army.
Well, a lot of people have said that, but then it's not something that's palatable to many.
No, it's not. Do you remember through COVID? I remember through COVID when police were out walking, particularly and in certain areas, police were walking with military members walking along, checking face masks and that. Like, honestly, it left me really feeling yuck, to say the least.
That was more predominant, though, in Victoria than anywhere else.
Yes, I was walking the Maribyrnong River.
I don't think people walking around the Swan were necessarily in that situation in WA.
But we were in a real bad way here. But anyway, but yeah. I don't agree with the military.
Funny, people in Victoria...
Melbourne.
In Melbourne as opposed to Victoria?
Yep. What, hard done by?
No, not hard done by, but there is a sentiment in Victoria that would suggest they were worse. What am I trying to say? That they were more hard done by than anybody else in the country.
I reckon almost anywhere else in the world. Just about Melbourne was brutal. Were you in Victoria then?
No.
You were so lucky. It was brutal. It was horrible.
But I was in communication with people almost every day about people that were going, so I understood.
It's different to communicate and to actually live in it. It was horrible.
Yeah, but there was, I bet during that time, crime had receded during that time.
Well, I can tell you because I've got friends of mine that were at Polaire, and it was like shooting fish in a barrel. Any car that was moving, because of the curfews, any car that was moving was crooks moving, basically. And it was easy for them.
Doing the wrong thing.
It was easy for them to spot them, so they were picked up very quickly because police weren't tied up with all the normal stuff.
133693. Your calls. I'm Tony McManus. Roger Sutherland is here from A Healthy Shift. 133693. Come and have your say. Nice to have your company wherever you are, right through it could be the Ace Radio Network. Our great friends at 5AA in Adelaide and 6PRE in Perth. Jump on board, come and have your say. 133693 for Perth listeners. 133882. The text line going into meltdown. I think most offenders need to be publicly shamed. You and I were just talking about that. Yep. The idea of public shaming.
That's a law. You can't.
And so would politicians, would people want the law to be changed around that so that people could be publicly shamed? Would that make any difference?
See, I know they say, they come out with their faces covered, but they're instructed to. And that their faces are covered because the news are not allowed to show their faces.
Unless you go to a Coldplay concert. 133693.
And you're a big CEO.
Yeah. Christian, hello.
How are you, boys?
Go ahead.
Hi, Christian.
We need to have discipline brought back into the households and back into schools.
Yeah, I agree.
It's ridiculous. It's all these snowflakes and everything. We're hurting people's feelings and stuff like that. I am sick and tired of hearing it.
A snowflake.
We need to bring discipline.
A snowflake.
I agree with you, Christian.
People,
a snowflake.
People today are snowflakes.
Yeah,
they are so sensitive in everything we do.
Yes,
anything you say, do, they are. They are so sensitive. That's why they're snowflakes. We need to start growing up.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Worrying
Totally.
about little things.
Yep, I agree with you.
So how does a teacher, how does an officer of the law, how does a magistrate, how does a senior court judge, how do they determine who and who isn't a snowflake?
How do they decide who is and who isn't a snowflake?
How do they go, I'm sorry, you're a snowflake?
No, but if someone's going to come up and they're going to say, oh, no, I'm offended by what you just said there, go and sit down up the back there. Just go, shut up and sit down.
Yeah.
Right, that's it. Yeah. I'm not listening to you. Because we listen to the vocal minority far too much. In fact, the vocal minority are fighting amongst themselves and they don't even know what they're there for.
Thank you. George, Middle Park. Hello, George. Come and have your say. Say hello to Roger. John in Port Douglas. Hello, John.
Oh, hello.
Morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I was. You were discussing youth crime. Look, there's one. There's one way to control people, and there's a very, very powerful emotion called fear.
Yeah.
Now, fear controls human beings. If they don't have anything to fear, they don't care. Like, they don't mind going to jail. They get 3 square meals a day and air conditioned, the computers and games to play. That's nothing. You've got to take the example that they have in Singapore. Singapore has no crime, none whatsoever.
No.
Because they have this thing called the rattan. And if you get out of control, you get a taste of the rattan, maybe 10 or 15 lashes, depending on the severity of the offence. Now, this keeps people under control because there's a thing called fear. But that's the only way you can do it. The only way, but you can't introduce that corporal punishment here because you have this thing called the legal industry. That it's an enormous economic impost on the country, and they know damn well that if this system was introduced, the crime would stop overnight, just finished. Yep. There'd be like Singapore, no crime at all. But they'd all be out of a job. And so they'd fight tooth and nail to prevent anything like this happening. That's the legal industry. It's an enormous world. That employs a lot of people, and they wouldn't like to see that happen. But that's the only way you can stop them is to use fear.
Good on you, John. Thank you. I'm going to move on, John, because we're going to race through some calls. I don't want to leave people out. A fair comment from John?
Yep, totally. Amen from John. I think he's spot on.
I've been hosting these sorts of programs for a long time now, and for at least 20-plus years, people have been talking about Australia adopting elements of the Singapore model.
They have been. And why don't we look at it? It works. We know it works. Can I just say this one thing? I just want to say this. Corporal punishment was abolished because why? It's detrimental to the child. How are we travelling now?
In terms of the
there's no corporal punishment.
You're talking about
now.
in schools.
Look at the behaviour.
You're talking about in schools.
Yep.
So you would go back to getting the cuts, getting the strap.
Well, you've got to give them literally, as John just said. You've got to have fear. Now, how would I feel about my son getting the cuts? Well, I did. Sure. I got them. Didn't do me any harm.
Well, maybe.
But I know we're going to argue, and I know all the vocal minority will come out again and say, "Oh no, you can't be doing that to kids." Well, how are we going now? How are we travelling now? Youth crime, everything's out of control.
But is that the role of a female teacher? And there's majority of teachers.
No, but they never did that. No, the female teachers weren't. When I say female, it wasn't the actual teachers generally. Generally, it was the sense of the headmaster.
It was a brother.
It was the headmaster. Yeah, and that's where you went.
So you've got this headmaster whose sole job is to give boys and girls the strap.
Well, no, it's not his sole job. He's a headmaster.
He'd be pretty busy.
He would be the
He'd be pretty busy. Line him up from 9 o'clock. He'd still be going by morning teacher.
Would he, though, if you started it? Would he? Because
at every school right across Australia.
Once a kid started coming back with the cuts and they're thinking, my God, and it flicked around and it got me on the wrist.
Would you want that job? I'm now a headmaster at a school. My job is I now strap children.
Does he wear a hood?
Neil, don't. Neil, hello.
Roger, g'day, Tony. Great conversation again.
Thanks,
50 years ago, we never had this problem.
No.
50 years ago, you guys are about my age. I'm 67. So we never had this problem 50 years ago because we were scared. And now, I never went there, but I have mates that went to Tirana and they would come back and tell me what it was like. And I tell you what, just to listen to those stories, that scared the crap out of me. We have to come back to something like that. You don't have to lock them up for 12 months. Put them in there for sorry, mate. Put them in there for a week.
Yep.
I know Malmesbury's closed down. I know everyone's going, we haven't got the money, but the government's got the money for everything else. So they can go off on their jaunts over to the sister cities over in America and take everyone and fly business class and what have you. So go back to where it was 50 years ago. You were a copper then. If I was walking down the street and I saw you at 10 o'clock at night, and that wasn't that late, and I saw the divvy van coming down, let me tell you, I jumped over the nearest van.
Neil, I'm totally with you on that.
You would, and we all did that. There was some terror about the local police officers because they would report back home.
But as John from Port Douglas said, fear. You've got to have fear. If I copped a clip behind the ear from the local cop when I was growing up, there's no way would I tell my parents. I would have got another one.
You were embarrassed.
Now they're down the police station making complaints.
About the but is that the role that young police officers want to take on today?
No, they don't.
And therein lies another problem. There's one here that says, Tony Mac, stop interrupting Roger. You like to disagree. Well, I don't disagree. I simply ask the question. People that have the right idea, snowflakes, you laugh. Don't know what they are. Well, I don't know what a snowflake is.
You've never heard the term snowflake?
No.
Oh, Christian and I are on the same team then. A snowflake's hell.
But how do you determine who is a snowflake and who's not a snowflake?
Well, I think it's pretty easy to pick a snowflake.
Well, I could be a snowflake.
You're not a snowflake.
Thank you. Len, hi.
Good evening, Tony.
What a snowflake.
You
Go ahead, Len.
Thunder, mate. You stole me thunder. The corporal punishment.
Yeah, corporal punishment.
I tell you what, mate, I copped the cuts a few times.
So did I.
And, it pulls you in the line. Doesn't hurt that much.
No.
I mean,
and it doesn't last long, does it, Len? But you certainly learn from it.
What a snowflake is, mate. Yeah. Don't worry about that.
You didn't have snowflakes once you'd had the cuts.
In those days. But no. The thing is, no, there's got to be discipline. There's got to be respect.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, but none of that's new though, Len. You say you've got to have discipline. We say we've got to have respect.
Yep.
The question that I put back to you and the listener is, how do we instill that? It's not as if there's some magic wand.
Consequence. I'll say it again and again and again. There's got to be a consequence.
And who is going to set up the idea of providing...
The politicians, by writing the bills to do it. And it always comes back to the politician. You have to come back to the politician. They're writing the bill.
And yet you and I vote for people each and every 3 or 4 years, both nationally and right throughout the states, and we get the politicians for whom we vote.
We get what we deserve by what we're voting for. Now, I know, don't get me wrong here, there's a lot of people here that will not have voted for this government that we have now.
Sorry, which government are you talking about?
The Labor government in Victoria now.
Okay, so we've got to be
sorry.
I want to be careful
the
because we're talking
but even
about
the federal government,
a national audience.
Yeah, there'd be a Labor government in there's a Labor government in national.
Yeah, national.
And we're in a position now where we voted for that. It was only a recent election. It was a landslide victory, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Landslide. So people can't complain and say, oh, he's not doing this or he's not doing it. Well, they've got the right to do it.
So you're saying that democracy doesn't work? You're saying democracy...
Well, I think it's rigged to a certain extent as well,
rigged.
which is another story.
It's rigged.
Well, not rigged. It's democracy.
That's what the president says. It's all rigged.
Where do the preferential votes go?
Huh?
Where do the preferential votes and everything go?
But that's
a lot of people don't understand that.
But that's the system that we have. That's our democratic system in Australia.
Yes.
So how do we overhaul that?
How do we overhaul that? We need to educate the public on where those preferential votes are going so they know exactly what they're voting for. And I don't think enough people know that.
No, they don't. And they're not inclined to even find out about it.
No, they're not.
No.
And then they want to bring in voting at 16 in the UK.
I know. 133693. Rudy in Adelaide will come to you next. You can join the conversation. I'm Tony McManus. Roger Sutherland is here, a former copper of 40-plus years. Normally we talk about shift work, but we can go anywhere in this
That's
segment.
all right. Yeah.
We're anywhere. 133693. Come and join us straight after this. A lot of text, which is nice, wherever you are right across Australia. We will get to as many as we can. 0477 693 693. Rudy in South Australia, hello.
Hello, how you going there?
Rudy, you wanted to say?
I wanted to say just one thing on older vintage, but we used to have corporal punishment when I went to school, and I had the cane a few times, and that didn't hurt. Well, it did hurt at the time.
Do you think it was a deterrent, Rudy?
It straightened me up.
You reckon it did?
Oh, yes. And then I would get a double whack when I got home from the headmaster gave a report.
I was the same, I agree.
And I wanted to say to Roger, we need more like him to actually get into Parliament, ex-copper.
Yeah, I agree.
To get into Parliament to actually make these laws come to fruition, and don't, like the previous caller said about snowflaking and all that stuff.
Yep.
Right, go back to the old days. You run riot on the streets when you were a kid, right?
Yep.
You got into trouble.
Yeah,
You did.
Yeah,
Right?
you well and truly you
Can
did.
I just say one thing? We had the chance to vote on an ex-cop, and we didn't vote for him.
Yeah, in
and
fact, he lost his
we've
seat.
also got one here in this state as well, who's in the leader of the opposition, who's an ex-cop. That isn't Brad Batten an ex, please?
Brian in Hastings, hello.
Yes, I'm on the opposite side of everything, because what's happened to me has absolutely thrown my world upside down. I'm a 65-year-old disabled pensioner, and I've had I call them the filth, have come up my driveway while I'm tinkering with my new car, and they come up with a breathalyzer and said, "Oh, well, I hadn't had a drink or anything." Oh, well, hang on, they've come on my property. I'm a diabetic too, diabetic 1, having a hypo, and I've gone inside to do what I had to do. I've lost my licence for 4 years over this, and it's cost me $4,000 to get a solicitor, and I've had to plead guilty, which I did, because I did refuse a breathalyzer in my own driveway. I don't know what's going on
Rudy,
here.
there's something a bit weird about that. I'm
Yeah,
not
about
too
the
sure.
law there. Without the full context of the whole story, it's extremely difficult. I know type 1 diabetes that's having a hypoglycemic episode can certainly present like someone who is intoxicated. And it's one thing that I learnt the hard way in my career as well. Someone who I thought was drunk was actually having a hypoglycemic episode. You've got to be so careful. You've got to remember too, the cops are not medical professionals.
No, of course they're not.
And that's why they got a breathalyzer in their hand. So when you blow in it, it'll give you a reading.
Yeah. What about? And I'm not too sure what Rudy's situation may have been, but if officers were following that particular car, that car turns into a driveway. If they are suspicious about that, are they allowed to do a test in the driveway?
Yep.
Because they've seen that driver.
Yep.
So it's not about being in the driveway necessarily.
No,
it's a bit random.
It's a continuous.
All right.
It's continuous.
We've got to do this when we come back. More of your calls. Come and join us on Australia Overnight. Roger, would you say, based on a lot of the text, would you say imprisonment is a holiday camp?
No, not at all.
not.
You're taking a person's liberty away from them.
G'day, Tony and Roger. Perhaps we need to lobby governments to change laws and not stop until they do.
There you go.
Well, I think that's the DNA of what we talk about.
We finish on that. Amen.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
The laws have got to reflect. It's always good. Have a look at what Roger does. ahealthyshift.com. ahealthyshift.com. and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. We go whining and dining next.